Hello, my name is Gary Kidder, and I would like to share with you my testimony. I worked for a place called Rock Bit Industries. We made bits for drilling companies, all kinds of different sizes and stuff, and I sort of did a little bit of everything. I was a jack of all trades, supervisor, second shift, and did maintenance when it was necessary to keep everything going. And that's what I was doing at this time. I was working on a vacuum furnace, which is a huge, mostly it would fill up most people's living rooms. And we heat treated parts in there and carburized them. But the thing went down on us, and we had to get it fixed because we had some special parts in there we wanted to get out. So I volunteered to fix it. It had it's 440 volt vacuum furnace, and one of the phases, the wires on the machine burnt off. So we shut the machine down and got it cooled down, and I went in the back of the machine and took all the guards off and everything. And then I just finished replacing the wire and putting some tape on it, and I had my arms wrapped around the frame of the machine, and as I was putting the tape on, the last little thing to do before I was going to go home after I got done with this job, the juice electricity came on while I was holding onto the machine, and it went in through this arm here where I had it wrapped around the frame, and then I had the other arm wrapped around this way, holding myself up on the machine, and I could heard the thing come on, and immediately I knew I was in trouble because I couldn't let go of the machine. You've seen these movies these documentaries where people get hooked up to electric and they can't let loose. Well, that was me. I tried as I may to try to get off of it, but I was just shaking, and feel like I was just heating up all over my body, and I knew I was going to die. But during that time, I got the vision of God, that, Lord, I need you. I need you now. Please get me off of this thing. And of course, my life was going around in my mind. You know what they tell you that happens, it was happening. And as I was praying to God, he suddenly took me off the machine. I mean, it was just instantaneously. I couldn't move for a few minutes, but he took me off the machine. He answered my prayer. So I stepped off the machine, and back it was on a little platform. I stepped off the machine. I couldn't move my arms. I was just hanging there, and I was in severe pain. And so I walked around the machine and up to the break room. I couldn't open the doors, and I told the boss was in there playing dominoes with one of the guys, and as I stood there, he looked at me 2 or 3 times. About the third time, he realized, well, something's wrong here, because he just don't stand there and look at me. He come running out, and I said, I've been electrocuted. I need to get to the hospital. And he called the other guy to come out and get me, take me to the hospital. And as I said, I couldn't move any of my arms. I could walk fine, but I was in awful pain, And on the way to the hospital, I told my friend, I said, please tell Janet, my wife, that if I don't make it through this, that I love her and I love our God. And of course, I asked him to get a hold of her, which they had already done. She pretty much met us at the hospital, and well, they ran all kinds of tests and everything, and they said they couldn't find an exit wound, so they didn't believe I was shot that bad. So they told me just to go on home and see my doctor the next day. Well, of course, they had shot me up with a lot of pain pills, and injections and stuff to calm me down, and I couldn't get in to see my doctor next day because they said it was workman's comp. Workman's comp, the doctors don't want to work with you. So I called several different doctors. I've been with that doctor for 21 years. But anyway, I finally called the insurance lady and told her, please tell me what I'm supposed to do. I've got hurt at work and nobody wants to see me because I'm on workman's comp. And she said, well, I can send you a name of a few people, doctors to go see. I said, no, lady, I'm hurt now. I need help. So they sent me. I told her, can I go back to the clinic for this company clinic? And she said, fine. So I went to the clinic. And, of course, I've worked with them people for years, and they knew me real well. And they took me in and they took x-rays, which they didn't do at the hospital. And they found out that I had broken my left shoulder, the ball, in 6 pieces. The electrical shock, the pulsation of the shock was enough to splinter that bone in my arm. So at this time, they sent me to a specialist, and he couldn't work on me for a week because I had swollen so bad, and by the next day I was black from my chin down here all the way to my bottom. Everything was black. And so they had to wait a week to operate on my arm. Anyway, it was like 3 years before I finally, with all the surgeries I had and everything, got back to work, where I could go back to work and stuff. And the company that I worked for 20 years had fired me because I couldn't come to work, or I couldn't come to work because I was getting worked on. But anyway, through all this, I had workman's comp coming in and stuff, but it's not a lot of money. But, God supplied us with everything we ever needed. We never went hungry. We never missed a payment on the house. We never missed a car payment. We survived through believing that God was going to take care of us, even though we was going through some hard times. And this was in 2002 when this happened. And like I said, 3 years later, I was able to go back to work, and I went back to that same company, and they had released me. So I went down the street. I was so frustrated. I went down the street and I got a job with another company in May Advertising and working maintenance. So they were just tickled to death to get me. I've always believed that God loves me and my family, and whenever there's a diversity, in your life, you just look to Him and pray to Him, and He's going to supply you. He supplied me with another job, just down the street from where I used to work. And they were great people, and I worked with them for about 2.5 years, and loved the job there and loved all the people. I mean, they were really good to me. And then I developed cancer in my left kidney. I had been having back pains really bad, so I went to the hospital in Cranberry, and they took x-rays and found, I thought it was a kidney stone maybe, but from what I've heard, kidney stones felt like. But they called me right away and said that you need to come back and take some more. They did some MRIs, and they found out that I had cancer in my right kidney. And so this was another setback, And about the time I thought everything was cool again, well, here come kidney cancer. That year, or 2006, the diagnosis was kidney cancer. So we prayed again, and I was off for less than a year, maybe 6 months. And they had to go in there and take that kidney out because it was a fast-growing cancer, and it was very rare. I mean, it was rare not real rare, but seems like I always get all the rare stuff. But went to a specialist in Fort Worth, Arlington, Fort Worth. His name was Dr. Shepard. I'm sure he won't mind me using his name, but he was a godsend to me. He was a Christian. Came from my hometown, or my home state, Ohio, and he grew up just south of where I had lived. But he talked to me a long time, and said that we was going to have to take that kidney out, and so we scheduled it to take it out, and everything went fine. So I went back to work, and I think it was like 3 months later. It was in the summertime. I was on restricted work. I wasn't doing a lot of things outside in the heat. But I developed kidney cancer in the other kidney. Now this was a real setback for us, because when I say us, I'm talking about Janet, my lovely wife, who stood by me every step of the way. And I love her to death, and she's a great Christian woman, and she's a model for any wife. And but anyway, this was very devastating, because in my mind, if you lose both kidneys, you're going to die. Because I never heard about dialysis or any of that stuff. And I've never heard of anybody surviving very long without any kidneys, because they had to take that out, the other one out completely too, because of the fear of spreading. Our life after I had the kidney taken out, well, there's no way I could try to work, but our thoughts were, I need to take it easy, and I need to try, and pray. We prayed and prayed about this, that I need to just stay home, and we worked all the numbers out. If we watched our money real well, I could stay at home on disability and still be able to pay all our bills. So we went on dialysis. So dialysis was pretty good for me. I mean, I go 3 times a week. It would wear me out, because if you know anybody on dialysis, after the treatments, it takes a while for your body just to recover, because they work on volume, and they pump a lot of fluids through you and take out the impurities in your blood so you can survive. And it's a great thing. There's many people on dialysis. Most of them, a lot of them, are just diabetes. Mine was a little different route to get there, but it was survival. Yeah. All along, I'm telling people that I know, and people that I'm trying to give them my testimony, the way that things happen, and encourage them never to give up. And they told me going into this that I couldn't have a transplant. I was too old, and they told me that if I did get a transplant, kidney, someone that had died, and if they saved the good ones for the younger people, which is understandable. We was doing dialysis. I heard about this, doing the dialysis at home, and so we checked into that, and we had to go to classes and learn how to do all this dialysis and keeping the maintenance up on my body. And it was actually doing dialysis 5 times a week instead of 3. It was still 3-hour treatment, about like you do at clinical dialysis. And when we finally got into it and was doing it, it made me feel like a human being again, because I was feeling great. I was the healthiest dialysis patient you probably ever see. But it really made me feel good. And I think God led us in that direction. It wasn't easy because we had to. I had to get everything ready before Janet would come home from work. An hour before she'd come home, I get the machine running and everything set up and all the bags. It was quite an ordeal to get everything going. But once you get down to the routine, it wasn't that hard. When Janet would come in the door, the first thing we do, I'd stick my fistula with the needles, and then she would hook it all up on the machine side, and we'd sit there or I'd sit there, and half the time I would sleep or read, but I didn't have it bad. I had a big screen TV on the wall that I watched, but anyway, it was a good treatment. It kept me going real good, and God sets these things up for you. You don't know what route He's going to take you. The most important thing is always to pray and to believe that God's going to show you the way out of your whatever the devil or whatever puts in your way. I was on dialysis for 6 years, and they finally put me on the list to get a kidney. About a year before I got on the list, a gentleman by the name of Jeff Ferris came to me in church and asked me, what kind of blood type are you? We've been talking about, how I've been doing. I've been feeling good. Things going great, and he said, well, I've been praying for you, and God came to me and told me to give you a kidney. Well, I said, yeah. Are you sure about this? And he says, yeah, I've been praying a long time for you. And he told me the whole story about him praying and God, telling him that I need the kidney and he needed to give me one. I said, brother, I would love to take your kidney. I said, there's all kinds of tests and stuff involved, and at this time I hadn't been on the list, and I said I had to get on the list before they did. And he said, fine, let me know, whenever, and I'd like to work that way. And I said, fine, brother, I appreciate it. And what can you say? If somebody give you a gift like that. We kept in touch, and he'd always ask me how I heard anything. And finally I told him, he said, yeah, I'm on the list, and I gave him your name. Are you still in this to do it? And he said, yes, sure, I'm ready. So anyway, they went and did all the tests, and of course, God set this whole thing up as far as I'm concerned, because not only was it a good kidney for me, but there was like 4 different matches they have to do, and they had to have so many of them to make a good match so you can get a kidney. And when my tests come back, every test came back positive. Now, that's a God thing. That's what they did. They got a hold of him and did all his tests and did my test. Everything was perfect. And then we set a date for a kidney transplant. And everything went fine. Jeff got a little sick in the hospital, but bless his heart, he come out of it fine. He's doing great. I had a lot of medical problems for afterwards, with infections, and everything didn't go perfectly like they told you, but I kept faith, I kept faith in God that he was going to do everything for me that he wanted me to. You know, if I die tomorrow, look, he's given me all this time from the first 2007 when I was supposed to die. Look at all the time that he's given me. But I'm doing really great now. I had to have a couple hip transplants because my bones in my hip deteriorated because of the loss of circulation down in the bones. But that is a minor price to pay for what God's done for me and done for my family. It's brought me and Janet closer than ever. It's brought my son closer to me than ever. But I just want to encourage anybody that's having problems or trials and tribulations, just believe that God is going to work with you. And when you ask him in prayers, when you ask him for something, he's going to deliver to you. He's going to do it in his time. It may not be instantaneously when you can't pray for something and expect to get it the next day. But he is there for you. He's there for you anytime you need him. And just pray and ask for his help. The Holy Ghost will work with you and give you the words and the wisdom to work and get help from the Lord. I just thank you for this opportunity to tell you my testimony.